So thanks for having me on, Anisha. The first question you asked me was, what has been your experience with mental health? Now, I've had many years, most of my life, if I'm being honest, of suffering with mental health issues, whether it's depression, anxiety, confidence, lots of different personality traits because of that, but specifically obsessive compulsive disorder. I was diagnosed with that at age 11, but it was clear that I had something there when I'd say at least I like 4 or 5, but even before that, I remember certain sort of flashbacks at like going to preschool and having anxiety about leaving my mum to go into the reception. Now, a lot of kids have that anyway, but mine was to extreme levels of kind of it's like I literally had to be like pulled away to go in and so I was diagnosed at age 11 with OCD, had therapy on and off for years until around 16, 17 years old. Then the therapy stopped. And that was a setback because I had that support system in place with the therapy for years. That was a place that I could go and speak to someone that I didn't feel as judged. And that stopped, and that was very difficult. But that ultimately, in the end, was a good thing for me because it made me stronger and it made me have to find answers for myself rather than going to a therapist, and it's kind of made me into the person I am today. In terms of mental health, I've had times where I've felt suicidal, very depressed, very low. Um, I used to harm myself. I didn't ever cut myself, but I remember shooting myself with a BB gun before. Um, I was close to taking tablets, but ultimately I knew that I had more purpose, and which leads to kind of what I'm doing today, which I'll go into a bit later on. But I'm going down the life coach path now because I feel like I can help so many people with especially OCD, but just mental health in general because of my own experiences. Obviously, my when I was diagnosed and stuff as well, my mum wasn't sure what was wrong with me, but she knew something was wrong with me, and she had to do her own research, and ultimately she looked up certain things I was doing, i.e., my two big problems with OCD was showering and toileting. For instance, I would take a certain amount of time in the shower. A lot of mine was based around hygiene, so I would take a long time in the shower, and also when I went to the toilet, I would use tons and tons of toilet roll, and to this day I still do the toilet side of it with a tissue quite a lot. The showering's not as bad as that was before, but the toileting is still I still use a lot of toilet paper, and also as I said, a hygiene thing. So like clothes and stuff. If I wear something for like one day, usually I can't then wear it again until it's washed. Or if I'm using a towel, if I get out of the shower or something, I use a towel. If I drop that towel on the floor, even if I've just got it fresh and clean out of like the airing cupboard, if I drop that on the floor, I can then not use that towel because I feel like it's contaminated, and even if it's for a split second, it's hit the floor and I've picked it up immediately. I can't deal with that mentally because it causes too much stress and I feel like it's contaminated. I've just obviously had a shower, so I feel pretty good and clean. But then I'm wiping the towel on me that's now been on the floor, and so I just explain OCD as it's a separate voice in your head. There was a Simpsons episode years ago where I believe it was Homer was suffering with like the good and the bad, so a devil on one shoulder and an angel on the other. And that's kind of how I sum up OCD. If you search that, you'll find it. I can't remember what it was called, that Simpsons episode, but that's pretty much how I look at OCD and mental health in general, because a lot of people tell you that they have these voices in their head. And that's how I look at OCD specifically. Question 2. How have you been coping during this lockdown? So basically, it's tough, right? I know a lot of people are struggling. I'm an introvert by nature, and that's largely down to my illness, I believe, with the OCD. I've always been an introvert, but I've challenged myself over the years. Obviously, I met you through music, and And I had to challenge myself to do the music in the first place for the live performances, because obviously that would drive my anxiety up through the roof. But that's something I had to face and deal with. Doesn't mean it's any easier now if I have to go and do it again, because it's the same every time for me. But because I wanted to put myself out there and the music was important to me, I had to challenge myself and face that. So, as I said, I've been an introvert all my life. So this lockdown is not anything really new to me. When I'm not usually at work and stuff or seeing my kids, I'm at home a lot, because I've been doing it for so long now that I kind of appreciate that time to myself anyway, more so than being around a group of people and stuff. And so I'm kind of comfortable. So your third question is, what advice would you give to someone losing motivation or focus during lockdown and in general circumstances? The first thing that comes to mind is, what is your why? What is your reason for getting up in the morning and getting out of bed? Not just during lockdown, but in everyday life as well. What's your drive? What drives you? What's your alarm clock? Some people don't need an alarm clock because their will and their why wakes them up, because they have to tackle that day, whether it's your kids, maybe you're looking after a sick parent or something, or you're saving up for a holiday you've been wanting to do all your life. You need something that drives you. You need a why. Something strong enough that when you're struggling with things and things aren't always going your way, it's enough there to keep you out doing what you're doing, regardless of the results you're seeing in that moment in time, whether it's a failure or a success. Even if it's small little things, it needs to be something that holds enough weight to keep you carrying on. And I think a lot of people struggle because, and I've been in this boat myself, of not knowing what their purpose in life is, or what their chosen career should be. Or I feel like I've found that now, but I think a lot of people are still searching that, and a lot of people don't know what they want to do in life. So it's a case of just hanging in there and trying different things, trying new things all the time, because that's how you're going to find something that, especially if you don't really know what you want to do, you have to try lots of different things and hopefully you will find something that clicks, and something that once you do it, as soon as you start doing it, you will know. It's like falling in love. Once you find that something, you're going to know, and that's going to be your why. So when it's really bad and things aren't going your way, if it's strong enough in your head and you want it enough, whatever your why is, that's going to keep you pushing. It's going to keep you going to getting up every morning and going to that job. Or, do you know what I mean? Even if you're working a job you don't like, maybe you're making enough money to put away to then invest into starting your own business, your own career path. So I think that is the major advice I would give. I think a lot of problem as well is, it kind of ties into the why, is people watch a lot of motivational things and get pumped up, but then they don't apply it. They don't apply the messages. They don't apply the actions that they're learning through the motivational videos. They'll get pumped up, but then they'll just go back to whatever they were doing, and they won't apply what they're learning, and they won't apply that energy from getting pumped up. They won't put that same energy into tackling whatever it is that they want to do and applying that to things, because I think a lot of the time it's difficult, whatever they're choosing to do. But remember, guys, think that anything that's worth doing is not going to be easy, because if you want something bad enough, and something that you want, especially if you want to work for yourself as like an entrepreneur, it's not easy. It's even harder than working a normal job for someone else. But this again comes back to, what's your why? Is it the fact you can't stand working for someone else, that you have a boss? Do you want to be your own boss? But that's not going to come easy. So it all comes back to that why. But I do think that a lot of people get frustrated because, as I said, they get pumped up, they get motivated, they say they're going to do things. Then when someone challenges them on that and asks them what they've done, it's that they haven't applied anything. And you have to take them steps, whether it works straight away or it doesn't. It's that continual process of repetition, of trying and doing something, learning from what's not working, learning from the little things that do work, strategizing that to a path that's going to work to get you where you want to get to. Also, another thing that I think is important is accountability partner. Now, this is something that I do with someone. Accountability partner is someone that you hold close that is going to challenge you. It doesn't have to be a family member, and it doesn't have to be friends either. It can be someone on a professional level. It's someone that was going to check in on you daily or every other day and ask you, what have you been doing that's productive? What have you been doing to challenge yourself? And when you have that, it's going to make you feel guilty when they challenge you and you have to answer them and say, oh, I didn't get nothing done. That's then going to push you. So even if you do have the odd day where you're not getting anything done, that's going to push you to then make sure that the day after, the following day, that's not going to happen again. Because especially if you're accountable to them as well, you challenge them too. If they're smashing it out of the park every single day, that's going to drive you. It's going to bring out that competitive side in you. It's like athletes, like a fight, for instance, or any sort of sport. You're up against your opponent, and that's how I look at accountability as well, because it's there to push each other and help each other, but it brings out that competitive side in both of you, and it'll bring the best out in both of you. So you're helping each other, even though you can tackle it as, nah, he's done so much today, I can't let him outdo me, I can't let him outwork me. But that's healthy, because it's going to bring, even if you don't match that other person, if you're getting close to them, that's great, because you're both at a higher platform than when you first started. The reason you got an accountability partner is because you was both miserable and not getting anything done. Your days weren't productive. So the accountability side of it is going to push you both into being very productive and just taking more notes and setting goals, making sure you're intentional about your goals, because a lot of people that are frustrated and miserable in life as well they aren't in healthy habits of things, just like writing a goal, writing a checklist for the day. I'm trying to do this every day now, and it helps me because it gives my mind something to do. Because if I don't have anything planned for the day, I don't have any goals or a routine, that's when depression can come in. That's when anxiety gets through the roof. That's when you worry about things you don't really need to be worrying about. That's when the snowball effect comes in. You worry about one thing, and before you know it, you're worrying about 10 different things, because that's how your mind works. So it's important to have a list, and like a checklist, as I said, write out your goals. What do you want to do today? And it feels, personally for me anyway, how my mind works, when I can tick things off that list, it makes me feel great. It makes me feel like it's a massive achievement, even if it's a small thing. Because once you set a list and then tick it off, when you tick off that whole list for that day, you feel accomplished, even if it's a small thing, because you've set out to do something and you've accomplished that and you've done that, you've completed that. And then as time goes on, you can set yourself higher and more difficult things. And imagine the feeling you're going to get when you achieve something that's even more complex and difficult than what you started out first setting on your list. So I think that's a great and healthy habit to have. Journaling is another one. I don't journal myself. I've tried it before, but this is what you'll find, guys, as well, is try different things. It's like the thing I said earlier about finding a new job or passion, or you have to try different things. Not everything's going to work, and not everything's going to pull you in and get your attention. But without trying all these different things, you're not going to know what your path is. You're not going to know what works and what doesn't work. So it's experimentation, but it all requires action, guys. As I said, you can watch as many motivational videos as you want, but without that application, you're still going to be miserable. And that's where a lot of people fall down, because that's just one part of it. The motivational side is one part. You can't watch the motivational things, get pumped up, and then not apply it, because that's why you fall back into going through days and days of being miserable and no motivation, no energy, because you're not applying things. You're not getting results and clarification that it will make you feel good when you achieve even them small little things. As I said, it could be things like housework, taking your dog for a walk, posting a letter. Do you know what I mean? Just making sure that you're not sitting around, you're not just wasting the day, you're not on the video games all day, you're not laying in bed, you're not sleeping all day. So even if you haven't got stuff planned as well, another thing I would suggest is set your alarm to get up. Because when you don't, especially now, because our body clocks are all over the place with this lockdown, people feel like they haven't got a reason to get up. I know a lot of people are still working, but people that aren't working or have lost their jobs and stuff, obviously they're going to feel anxiety and depression because of that alone, which then is going to trigger, what's the point in getting up now? But this is where you need to tackle it, because when you don't get up and you don't set yourself or write something to do for the day, that's when it really hits, and that's when you're going to be in low mood, no motivation, stress. You're going to be taking it out on your family members, and then it's going to affect relationships in close quarters at the moment as well, and you can't escape because everyone's in lockdown and everyone's very close, or more than they're used to. So that's another thing, is set your alarms and make sure you get up. Even if you haven't got anything planned, get up, write a list to do. It could be 3 things, it could be 2 things to start out with. And as I said, as you get more used to doing that and get into the habits of doing that daily, you can increase the amount of things on your list. And here's another thing, guys, what I've learned. Sometimes I do a lot of things for the list each day, and I don't always get all of them achieved or tackle all of them because there's too many there. So either set yourself a reasonable number that you know you can get accomplished or at least tackle, or if you set too many like me on certain days, don't beat yourself up if you don't get it all done. Because remember, before you wasn't setting a list at all. You wasn't getting anything done intentionally. Now you're intentionally writing a list each day. That's then going to build. So don't beat yourself up if you don't get every single thing tackled. Aim to tackle everything that day. But I understand sometimes things happen. We've got family members, we've got kids, we've got relatives we have to see. We have to do a lot of things. So don't beat yourself up if you can't get every single thing on that list accomplished or completed. Just try and push that into the next day. Add that to the next day of whatever you've got to get done. So I hope that answers it. We're still in lockdown. Hopefully it's not going to last too much longer, guys. But use the things I've said today and write, keep a log of if it makes you feel better, if you've noticed any difference, if you feel worse. Because without jotting it down and making a note of how you're feeling, but applying some of this stuff, then seeing how it makes you feel, you're not going to know what's working and what's not. All I would say is a lot of people say before this lockdown, I don't have time to invest in this, I don't have time to work on this, I don't have time to do this. At this moment in time, you do have time. Unless you're working from home and you don't have the time that way. Even with that though, you can still make up a couple of hours after work or whatever. If you want something bad enough, start this career you've always wanted to do. It's not going to be easy, but you really don't have any excuses right now, guys, because we have even more time on our hands. So use this time, guys, because once the lockdown is over, it's going to be easy to fall into habits that we had before the lockdown. Use this time to acquire a new skill set. Use this time to work on yourself, your health, mindset, whatever it is. Start a new course online. Achieve new skills, gain new skills, so you can then start building that path towards a different career path if that's what you want. But as I said, guys, we complain and say that we don't have the time usually. But at this moment in time, we do have the time, more than ever. So stay strong, everybody. We're going to get through this.